the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg for pre-need funerals, burials, and cremations since 1975. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg. Funeral service for Tommy Keith Howard, age 65, of Sylacauga, will be today at 2 o'clock from Curtis and Son North, with burial in the Evergreen Cemetery. Visitation today from 12:30 till 2 at the funeral home. Mr. Howard died Tuesday at DCH Regional Medical Center in Tuscaloosa. Online condolences at curtisondsonfh.com. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Vicki Graham Niemans, formerly of Alexander City, is Saturday at Perfect Peace Baptist Church in Alexander City at 2 o'clock. Burial in the Armours Memorial Garden. Visitation tonight from 4 until 7 at the funeral home. Armours Memorial Funeral Home, directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Martha Jean Stuckey, age 90, of Goodwater, is today at 3 o'clock from Mount Hebron Church of Christ Cemetery, with Minister Edwin Walker officiating. Family receiving friends today, 1 until 2 o'clock at Radley Funeral Home. Mrs. Stuckey died Wednesday, September 29th at Goodwater Healthcare Center. She was a member of the Mount Hebron Church of Christ. Radley Funeral Home in Alexander City, directing. Flowers will be accepted or memorial contribution may be given to the St. Jude Children's Hospital, 262 Danny Thomas Place in Memphis, Tennessee, 38105, or to Children's Harbor, 1 Hour Children's Highway, Alexander City, Alabama, 35010. Memorial messages can be sent to the family as well to radleyfuneralhome.com. Radley Funeral Home, Alexander City, directing. Graveside service for Mrs. Nancy Schofield will be Sunday at 4 o'clock from Hillview Mausoleum in Alexander City. Rob Schofield will officiate. Mrs. Schofield died September 28th in Chelsea. Radley Funeral Home, Alexander City, in charge of the arrangements. Graveside funeral service for Jesse Hamilton is today at 11 a.m. from Harper Spring Church Cemetery, Community Funeral Home, directing. Funeral service for Gavin Havis will be Saturday at noon from Liberty Christian Church in Harpersville, with burial in the Lily Roden Enon Cemetery of Childersburg. Visitation today, 1 until 7 at the funeral home, Community Funeral Home, directing. Funeral service for Mary Fuller will be Saturday at 1 o'clock from Bethel Worldwide Apostolic Church in Childersburg. Burial in the Tallahatchie Baptist Church Cemetery of Childersburg. Visitation today, 1 until 7 at the funeral home, Community Funeral Home, directing. And graveside service for Ernest Richardson will be Saturday at 1 o'clock from Coosa Valley Baptist Church Cemetery in Vincent. Community Funeral Home, 511 Edgewood Drive in Sylacauga, in charge of the arrangements. Patricia Ann Morgan, age 68, of Sylacauga, died Saturday at Coosa Valley Medical Center. A private family service will be held at a later date. Radley Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga, directing. Celebration of life for Mrs. Jessie Lee Hamilton, age 71, is today at 11 o'clock from Harper Springs Baptist Church Cemetery, with the Reverend J.O. Blackman officiating, Community Funeral Home, directing. Funeral service for William Delano Bill Williamson is Saturday at 11 o'clock from the Chapel of Radley Funeral Home. Minister Chris Tidwell and Minister Bruce Green officiating. Burial in the Hillview Memorial Park. The family receiving friends Saturday 9:30 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. at Radley Funeral Home. Mr. Williamson died Tuesday at Bethany House in Auburn. He was a member of the 10th Street Church of Christ in Opelika. Radley Funeral Home in Alexander City, in charge of the arrangements. And Patsy Lightsey died this morning in Sylacauga at her residence. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, in charge of the arrangements. That is a look at obituaries this morning, brought to you by Curtis and Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg. For pre-need funerals, burials, and cremations since 1975, Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.